Hockey romances? Have I been missing out? Let's get into it. Hi, bookish friends. It's Missy Reads, and it's been a minute. I know I've been kind of busy. You know, we just got through the Thanksgiving holidays, and I just got back off of a cruise. I actually did take a book with me, and I did some reading. I didn't do a whole lot of reading, but I did do some reading. But before I left on the cruise, I did finish my first hockey romance, and I was pleasantly surprised. Now, I've kind of talked to you about how I'm really a thriller girly, and I still am, but I do throw romances in there from time to time, and I want to finish out the year reading a lot of Christmas romances, but in the month of November, I did read my first hockey romance, and I read Mile High by Liz Tomforde, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was very different from anything that I'm used to reading. Again, I've stated before that I like a lot of romances that are very, very deep, where there's this deep, abiding love between the two characters. And probably second chance romance is my favorite trope. And that's not what this was, but I thought it was a very sweet story. This is about Stevie and Xanders. And Xanders is a hockey player, and Stevie is a stewardess. And she works on a flight attendant. I'm sorry, let's be politically correct. I can't believe when I said that. I haven't used that word in forever. But anyway, she's a flight attendant on the private jet that the team flies on. And from the minute go, there was a pure disdain that they had for one another. Her in particular, you know, he was this guy who had this reputation of being a ladies' man, but as you're reading the book, you realize that that's really not really who he is. He has some trauma, which I did like that aspect of the book. I do like characters that are a little deeper, and it's not just all this cookie cutter love and romance. It's just there's a backstory there for both characters, and it was her issue is that she is not necessarily overweight. She's just, not the skinniest of ladies, and so she has hangups about that because she was in a relationship before that. She realized that this guy would talk about her and he only would come back to her when it was convenient for him. And so she was a little guarded. And Xanders, on the other hand, he just had trauma from his parents. They're divorced. The mom left the dad and left the family. And then he felt like his dad was checked out after that. So I really don't want to give away too much. I just want to talk about a couple of aspects that I found of this book that I really liked, and some things that I just thought that the author could have done better. Now, I do want to make mention that it's a little controversy about this book, and that is the fact that the characters are people of color, and the author is actually a Caucasian woman, and I didn't have a problem with it. I think that the whole premise is the fact that, what could she know about people of color and how she could possibly write without the stereotypes that come along or that we tend to see or hear about different races. And I didn't see any of that, didn't read any of that, didn't catch on to any of that. And so I thought that she did a very good job. And I really liked these characters. I felt like Stevie she was kind of tough on nails, but she was still a little sensitive. And he really was a softie. He fell for her hard. And when I say hard, he fell for her hard. But he and his best friend, who was also on the team, they play this good cop, bad cop role on their teams. And so it's hard for him to be in a relationship because of this persona that he has to portray, that he basically is kind of tired of, but he understands he's trying to get another contract because his contract is getting ready to end on the team that he's on. And so he has to kind of continue to do that. And so she doesn't know. And then she finds out when he finally tells her the truth, then she plays along. But, there's a couple of things that happen. So, there's some angst, has to be angst. And with like any romance that you read, there's angst. And so I felt like this book was worth the read, being that it was my first hockey romance. And also I felt like there were times that it became a little long-winded. Like I felt like, if you look at it, it's pretty thick. And so some of it I just felt like we could have done without some of the, not necessarily backstory, but the added story, added stories or things that happen within just made it longer than what it needed to be. And I was looking at my Goodreads, and a lot of people were stating on the Goodreads that it was a 600-page book. And I'm like, okay, well, is there a different version? Is this a version that I have that maybe they went back and they edited some more? Because this book was 473 pages, which really is not my typical number. I don't really kind of stay in that number when I am reading. I'm kind of a 375 chick, but I didn't let that deter me, and I don't let that deter me. I do read longer books, but they have to be good. And I did feel like this one was pretty good. Now, this is the first in a series of 4, I believe. And I do not have the other books, but I have this motto or this rule that I'll buy the first book. And if I like the first book, I'll buy the other books. So I will purchase the other books in the series. So Mile High by Liz Tomforde, I thought it was a very good book. I rated it like a 4-star. I think it's worth it. I think that it does get a little long in the middle. I think the characters are endearing enough that that doesn't stop you from wanting to finish the book. You kind of want to finish the book because you want them to have a happy ending. And that's not a spoiler. I mean, most romances end with a couple getting together, and this one's no different. The second book has better reviews than this one. And so I'm really, really looking forward to it because I kind of knew who the second book was about. Stevie has a twin brother, and they're very close. And he is a basketball player, if I remember correctly. And she has a young lady that she works with on the plane who also is a flight attendant who basically ends up having a fallout with her boyfriend. And so then the second book, you can tell she ends up in the orbit of the brother. And the second book indeed is about Ryan and Evie, I think her name was, or Indy. I can't remember. Y'all forgive me. They were secondary characters. So, but anyway, so I'm really looking forward to it because I don't think it's as long and it had better reviews. So that's a plus for me. If I like the first book, but then the second book had better reviews, that's what I'm liking. I'm really going to look forward to that. So I highly recommend this one, and I will more than likely do a review on the second book when I do read it. So we'll see. Now, it is the Christmas season, and I purchased several books this last year. I read a couple of Christmas books last year, and I really liked them. They were romance books, and I really, really liked them. And so I think I discussed in a book haul that I did recently that I had several books that I was going to read this Christmas. And so this is the book that I'm currently reading now. It is Second Chance Christmas, if you see that. And I'm probably about halfway through. I mean, it's not a real thick book. Y'all, look at my book. I took the book on the beach with me, and I don't know, maybe I was in Grand Turk. And when I looked in my bag and picked it up out of the bag, it was wet. And so look at the edges. Can you see that, how they're flipped up? I'm really bummed about that. I really like my books to stay pristine and very cute, but it's not going to stop me from reading it or loaning it out for anybody who wants to borrow it later. But I love a second chance romance. And so the couple has just seen each other again for the first time in like 15 years. And so, yeah, it looks like it's getting ready to get to the point where I'm going to be really excited. So I will do a review on this one, and then I will probably read another one, another Christmas book after this one, because I got a couple I'm trying to finish before the end of the year. I want to talk to you about that. I was watching a YouTube video, or actually it may have been a TikTok, of a one of the ladies that I follow, and she made a very good point about where some of us are in our reading journeys. Like, I'm a school librarian, so I'm around books all the time. I properly vet books. I, really spend a lot of time reading books to see, like, is it a book, or should I say the synopsis of the book? I don't read the whole book, but just to see if it's appropriate to go into the high school media center where I manage. And so the love for reading just kind of came back to me. And then I started on Goodreads, and then I started on Book Talk, the Book Talk section of TikTok, and started my channel. And I probably got like 1,200 followers. And so I just feel like what she was saying, which I haven't shared yet, was that we're at a point where we're just turning out these books and and we make these reading goals, but how much are we retaining? And I feel like that was so me. I was like, you know what, she's on to something. And she was just saying that, you know, reading should be for pleasure. Yeah, we read for information and that's good. But those of us who read fiction, typically we're reading for pleasure. And I feel like I was kind of getting away from the pleasure of reading because I'm so busy trying to tick off my TBR. And so she was basically saying how she was not going to do that next year, that she was going to pick up a book when she's in the mood to read. She was going to read the book. She was going to really delve into the book and just really enjoy the book. And when she's ready to pick up another one, she will. In other words, she's not going to have a reading goal. She's not going to try to fulfill a TBR. She's just going to read in 2026. And I was like, girl, you are talking to me because that is how I feel. Last year, I had a reading goal of 50 books. I did the 50 books. And so I said, well, you know, maybe this year I'll do 60. Well, then I went through this reading slump in the summer. And then that kind of put me behind my TBR. And so I said, okay, well, maybe I need to change this goal. So I changed the goal back to 50 and it put me on target. So I was like, yeah, I'm on target. Well, I'm kind of behind now again, but I probably will reach the goal because I think I'm like maybe 2 books behind and I'm actually doing an audiobook now. And then I'm reading this one. So that's probably going to put me back, you know, on track. But I'm not going to do that next year. I'm going to read what I want to read. I'm going to pay attention to what I read. I'm going to do more in-depth reviews of what I've read, videos of what I've read, and just read for pleasure. And if that means I make 12 videos instead of 50, then so be it. I'm not going to run down this rabbit hole and just read for the sake of making content. That's not what I want my page to be about. And that's not the type of reader I want to be. I'm not challenging anybody. You know, guys, feel free to do whatever you want to do, but it's just something that I feel very passionate about. I just really felt like she was speaking to me. So I do plan to finish my goal for this year to the best of my ability. I'm about 4 or 5 books away, and I can, you know, with the size of books like these, which I got another one about this size, I'll finish. And then I have a couple of audio books that I'll finish as well. So I'll probably reach my goal. But next year, I'm going to cut myself some slack and I'm going to take my time and I'm going to devour books that are very, very good, and books that I don't want to read or don't like. I'm going to DNF and I'm not going to feel guilty about it. I'm just going to do what I need to do. So there's that. Anyway, I've got a couple more books to read and I'm going to read those, but I just want to thank you for spending some time with me, and I will be back on the side to talk about other books that I'm going to read for the rest of the year, and probably talk about some books that I just really want to read next year that are like really, really popular books that may be longer than I'm used to reading, and which will kind of probably feed into me not reading so many more books next year. But anyway, so that's that. See you next time. Bye.